Hello, everyone. This is Mike from Dimensional Walking, and today we're going to do a video on chemtrails. And the reason I decided to do this video was that I had obtained some extra interesting information this last week about chemtrails. I had been researching chemtrails many years ago, and it was actually for many years, mainly because I happened to be living in Arizona, and there was kind of a famous installation in Arizona in a place called Marana, Arizona. And at Marana, Arizona, there was a like a base there. I don't want to call it a base. It was more like a facility. And what they did there is they did a few things. During the Vietnam War, Evergreen Aviation used it as a probably a landing strip, a maintenance area for planes that were taking ammunition and equipment over to Vietnam. Okay, and they did that out of that location. They probably had other locations, but this is one of their bigger ones. This place also provides, and I think they're still doing it today, a place in where they park old planes there, and they take being out in the desert area, they take and cut up the plane and use parts for other planes, older planes. So it looks like it's really a airplane junkyard out there as part of it also. But there was also rumor that this was also a taking off point for planes that were doing chemtrails. So, anyways, that was the reason that I decided I have a little extra interest in chemtrails. So I went there several times because I lived just south of there in Tucson. So I would go up there, look around with binoculars, etc., because it was fairly easy access. I believe the highway was Highway Interstate 15. It was right off of Interstate 15, and you could actually get fairly close. Now they did have some security. You had to be careful. I remember, having security go by me, and I had to make sure that, I was looking kind of not too suspicious looking. So, and what I could see there basically was some large, it looked like, oh, I don't know if they were B 52s. I'm not an expert in airplanes, but they looked like these large bombers, and they were quite a ways in the back. A few times I went with binoculars. I couldn't really get a good picture with a camera, but I got, with binoculars, I was able to at least get a closer look. It looked like they were B 52s, and it looks like there was some other kind of attachments or something on the wings. I really couldn't get a close look, so I'm not going to tell you absolutely for sure. But there was always talk about there was something going on there, and there was flights that were going on. And there's some of the runways, I can't remember, there's two runways, I think. One seemed to shoot off towards in the back, so you really couldn't see them taking off and landing, although there were quite a bit of plane activity around there. I remember landing and taking off, but I didn't really see the B-52 looking planes. I'm not saying they were B-52s, but they look like B-52s to me that were taking off. But supposedly something big was taking off from there. So, with that said, let me go a little further into the chemtrails. Okay, so I want to read a little statement that I had looked up in some of the research I had originally did back in the 90s. And this statement comes from a former FBI chief, and this was in 2011. And this guy's name was Ted Gunderson, and I'm going to read his statement verbatim. And this was regarding chemtrails death dumps, otherwise known as air crap. And this was in January 12, 2011. Okay, it's kind of interesting stuff. So Ted said the following. The death dumps, otherwise known as chemical trails or chemtrails, are being dumped and sprayed throughout the United States, England, Scotland, Ireland, and Northern Europe. I have personally seen them not only in the United States, but in Mexico and in Canada. Birds are dying around the world. Fish is dying by hundreds of thousands around the world. This is genocide. This is poison. This is murder by the United Nations. Okay, so he even threw the United Nations in there. and he goes on, and I'm not going to go through all of it. He doesn't really mention the site in Marana, but he did mention some other sites in Nebraska and Oklahoma that these flights were taken off against, and he was extremely upset about it. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but he definitely was trying to make in 2011 was trying to make his voice known. I don't know if it ever was known, but my understanding is the chemtrail project was still going on after 2011. So and the other reason is I want to kind of go over so everybody understands. Now, the question of this video was, where have the chemtrails gone? Okay. And the reason I brought that up, it just dawned on me the other day that I haven't seen any kind of chemtrails here in Oregon for a couple years. And they're pretty obvious. Some people get them confused with contrails. You have to really be careful because chemtrails basically are in a checkerboard pattern. Okay, so they'll start off as several lines going in one direction. Typically, usually it's two aircraft, and then they come from a different direction to make a checkerboard pattern. And then eventually the checkerboard pattern, because of the chemicals that are up there, will spread out and make almost a complete coverage, a cloud coverage that would last for hours over a particular area. So I don't know, and here's the question, of course, I don't know what has happened. I've talked to a few other people around the country, and they say the same thing. They don't see many chemtrails. They're not saying they don't see any, but they seeing a lot less than they ever saw before. Now, let me say this. First of all, one of the reasons I believe probably they decided not to do it anymore, or at least on a reduced level, is because it is very tricky. My research showed that this is not easy technology to do, okay? What you have to do basically is you have to have the right humidity, the right wind direction. You have to make sure you're not close to the jet stream. There's a whole bunch of other parameters that make this successful or unsuccessful, okay? And I got some of this information from a pilot. When I used to live in Atlanta, in a place called Peachtree City, I used to live among a bunch of Delta pilots, and after a couple beers, they had a tendency to give a lot of really cool information out, including chemtrail stuff that they knew about, and of course UFOs, which I'm also interested in. So basically, what he told me some of that information. Where he got that information, I do not know. But one of the things he did say is that he knows they exist. He himself saw a plane several times at distances. He too thought they looked like B-52s with something attached to the bottom that was spraying something out of it. He said he brought it to the attention, or he brought it up with his supervisor, and his supervisor says, don't get involved, don't bring it up, I don't want to hear about it. That's what he told him. So he never did bring it up again because apparently it was a very sore subject. He believes that other pilots had seen the same thing, and they were just kind of wondering what was what because, everybody kind of knew sort of what it was about. A lot of people thought the chemicals that were being used to create these chemtrails could be very dangerous. And of course, I think pilots flying up in the air there probably didn't want to fly through this at all. So I think that's why they're asking those logical questions. So anyways, I believe they exist, okay? The question I don't know right now is why. And if somebody out there can help me answer that question, why have their chemtrails either reduced significantly or have disappeared completely? Now, I'm thinking it's only the last couple of years, and I don't think, any president or anybody intervened. I don't think that's the case. Maybe it's a good thing that they did. I don't know. Now, I also was thinking about this. One thing about chemtrails, and maybe the reason they stopped, they realized it's almost impossible to really affect the weather on a large scale. Okay, and I think they started this whole concept out because they knew that climate change was coming, global warming was coming, and they had to figure a way to kind of reflect back a lot of sunlight. And this is maybe one of their solutions. But the problem is the scale. We cannot manage, you know, do the scale that it was needed to really do this. But I was thinking, and this is just a side thought. What if, let's say, we knew there was going to be a huge heat wave like we had here in Oregon over the city of over the city of Portland, right? Just like it was. It went up to almost Portland went up to 116. Where I live, it was 118. That was huge. That was absolutely huge. People died. Hundreds of people died because of the heat wave, right? What if you just went ahead and knew it was coming and put an umbrella over the city, or put an umbrella of clouds over northern part of Oregon? It probably would have reduced the temperature 5-10 degrees. Maybe that would have kept people from dying. May have been a pretty good idea, as long as the chemicals don't kill you or kill animals or kill whatever, fish in this case, fish, birds, I don't know. So anyways, that was kind of a positive thought I had, because I think these heat domes are coming. Now, right now, if you're watching the news, India is having one hellacious heat wave early in the season, and I think they're really concerned because it's very bad now. But come another 2 months or so, if that heat wave is anything like, it'll probably be even worse. So I mean, if you're over a city like Delhi or something that has millions and millions of people, maybe a chemtrail umbrella over the top of it would help. Who knows? I don't know. But anyways, the chemtrails have disappeared. And I don't know why. If somebody out there can help, please put a comment down, etc. That's about it. I just wanted to get that off my chest and see if anybody could help me answer that question. Where have they gone? So if you can, you can send it, you can comment here, or you can send an email to me at dimensionalwalking@gmail.com. And I appreciate it. Hey, subscribe. We need your subscriptions. Like us if you like us. And we'll see you. Bye-bye.